Namaskar. Today we have Dr. Srinand Bapat with us. Welcome, Dr. Bapat.
Thank you.
He is Bachelor in History, MA PhD in Sanskrit, MA in Archeology, has certified research papers to his credit, international workshop, and currently he is looking after manuscripts at Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute.
Yeah.
I would like to ask some questions. What exactly is archaeology?
Actually, archaeology is a branch of knowledge which studies the past. So, right from the beginning of the human life on the earth, or rather even before that, right from maybe the inception of the universe itself, everything that comes into existence becomes a subject of archaeology. Now, what is the difference between archaeology and history then?
Yeah.
Actually, history relies on the written sources of the current events or personalities. But there are lot many things which are not recorded in words. And there are several artifacts or there are several materials that you get, but no written document is available on that particular event or that particular personality or that particular period of time.
Right.
All that is studied by archaeology. So everything perhaps that is not written becomes a subject of archaeology. There are two kinds of skill sets that would be useful. One is that he or she should have liking towards history, geography. Then he or she should also have liking towards some sciences, at least sciences like biology, then some preliminary chemistry, some preliminary physics as well. And practically speaking, there is hardly anything which does not come under archaeology. But normally, skills in commerce are not very useful for archaeology. But the skills in arts, especially history and geography, and sciences are quite necessary. So a person who would like to go into archaeology should basically concentrate on these two branches of knowledge.
What type of education is available for this field and which institutes are offering this?
Archaeology is rather a very specialized field, and that is why there is hardly any education at the level of graduation that is available. But there are several colleges and institutes and universities which offer courses of post-graduation in archaeology. Like for instance, the Deccan College at Pune is a very specialized university for archaeology. It is perhaps the most important and the most, you can say, resourceful university of this country. So there are several other universities that offer courses in archaeology, like for instance the university at Vadodara, the university at Aurangabad, then universities like those at Allahabad, Varanasi, JNU, Delhi. Now there is also a course at IIT Kanpur on archaeology. There is also a school of archaeology that is run by the Archaeological Survey of India, and they offer postgraduate diploma in archaeology. And the people or the persons who study at their school, they are supposed to be absorbed in the Archaeological Survey of India. So these are the chances. Now after you get your degree of MA or maybe MSc, then you can also go for PhD. So these are the openings for studying archaeology.
What exactly is excavation and what type of work it involves?
See, excavation is a process in which the material that is there under the surface of the earth, of the surface of the soil, that is taken out and studied. So that is the procedure. Now what happens that, see, the basic requirement for human life after air is water. So normally human habitations, they take place near some source of water, like for instance a river or a lake. And it happens that the people, they stay there, they construct their houses, they put their materials there, maybe they make pits for storage of grains, etc. And they also have storage jars that they put in the soil. And a time comes when the habitation has to be left, because there are chances like there may be a famine, or maybe a very devastating flood, or an earthquake, or let us take it positively, and the people find some better place than the place in which they are living. So they abandon the place, and after they abandon, most of the material that is important and that is portable is taken away. But those materials that they cannot take away, they remain at the archaeological site. As also the garbage that these people have created, that also remains on the site. So sometimes we call our field as the field of garbage, because it is the garbage actually that we dig out. Then after several years or centuries maybe, with the flowing wind, the flowing water, uh, this particular land is covered with soil. Then maybe since the place is quite favorable for inhabitation, another set of people comes there, and it stays there. And again the same process, same cycle is carried. So on an archaeological site, what you find is that the earliest material you will find at the bottom of the site, and the latest material you find at the top. So this is the process of laying the material. And we dig from the top. And so we dig from the top, take the strata of the soil, study the strata of the soil, and then we come to know what exactly had happened in this particular site.
Yeah.
So that is the process. Now there is a process of digging which runs for say about 3-4 months according to the climate and the available resources, and then the whole part of the year the material is studied, and that is more difficult actually. Digging is quite, you can say, it is tedious, but it is simpler. But studying the material and having some inferences from that is more difficult. Yeah, and one cannot forget the very important skill for archaeology, or rather any branch of knowledge, and that is the ability for languages, and especially English. Because about, I will say, more than 95% material, study material that is available in archaeology is in English. And that is why you cannot escape English. So that's very necessary.
Is knowledge of English is necessary, or for that matter any other knowledge of languages are necessary or needed?
Of course, English is very important, because more than 95% of the material, study material I mean, in archaeology is available in English. And it's very little that is available in languages like Hindi or Marathi or things like that. And more importantly, if you are going to present your research in the international field, then it is always necessary to present it in English, and that is why English is extremely important. In fact, there are second thing is that as a matter of other languages, those people who have to study historical archaeology, and especially the archaeology of the last 3,000 years, so to say, they should certainly know Sanskrit. They should certainly know Prakrits. They should also certainly know languages like Pali. They should have at least an awareness of the development of the present day languages, like for instance from Sanskrit to Prakrit, from Prakrit to early Marathi, then medieval Marathi and late Marathi. So all the course, they should at least have a awareness regarding that. And knowledge of Sanskrit, I would say, is as mandatory as the knowledge of English is. And that is why this skill set is very important. More than that, now for instance, if you are working in, say, some state like Karnataka or maybe Tamil Nadu, then I would say it is also necessary to have knowledge of the local language there. That is for the day-to-day transaction, as well as to know the traditions of that particular area.
Yeah.
And that is why knowledge of languages is extremely important.
What are the technological innovations in this field?
During the last 50 years, I will say, technology has entered into archaeology like anything. Now, previously archaeology used to be counted as a subject in arts, but now it's more and more becoming a scientific subject. If you find suppose an artifact, then you need to date it. For dating, you have scientific processes like carbon-14, potassium argon, etc., which you carry out. Then there are several instruments which allow you to know what is there below the surface of the earth without actually excavating. Now, for instance, there is a macrolocomotor. There is a periscopic device, which actually through which you can have a small hole made in the earth, and you can know through electromagnetic waves what can be there around the particular instrument. And this actually facilitates less digging and more knowledge. So such devices are there. Now, for instance, there is a branch of archaeology which is called as palynology, which studies pollen grains. And pollen grains, you will be astonished to hear that pollen grains is the most lasting part of the plants. And that is why through the study of pollen grains, you can come to know what kind of climate was there, what kind of crops used to be taken, what were the trees around. Now there is a branch of biology which is called as archaeozoology. There is a branch of geography or geology, I will say, which is called as paleontology. And all these branches require a lot of science. The last part is that nowadays we do a lot of satellite archaeology. Now, for instance, you must have heard that the course of the Saraswati river has been found during the last several decades, and that has been done through on-ground surveys as also through the satellite surveys. And through satellite surveys, actually, they could trace the whole course of the Saraswati river, and then it was actually surveyed on ground. So a lot of technology is involved today in archaeology, and that is why an archaeologist should be a multidimensional person, so to say.
As you mentioned some branches here, are there any more branches in this field?
Yes, of course. I talked about the specialized scientific branches actually, but the basic branches of archaeology are like, for instance, there are three very distinct branches. One is prehistory, then the other is proto-history, and the other is historical archaeology, which I told you. Now, prehistoric archaeology mostly relates with Stone Age. Then proto-historic archaeology, it relates with the period of Indus Valley civilization, the Vedic period, and the so-called Chalcolithic period, in which you find some material which is written, like the Indus seals, but which have not been satisfactorily deciphered. As also there is a whole mass of Vedic literature which you have, which you know, but it was not written at that time. It was in an oral tradition.
Yeah.
So that is the second period. And the third period is the historical archaeology, for which you have some documents, but of course there is a lot more of there is a lot of information which is available through excavations. Now these are three main branches. In these branches, actually, you will find that there are sub-branches in historical archaeology, for example, like epigraphy, which deals with inscriptions. There is a branch of numismatics, which deals with ancient coins. There is a branch of study in religion. There are branches of study in the society, social sciences, social institutions, etc. There are very strong branches that study art, the temples, the architecture, the sculptures, the paintings. And there are, archaeology, I will say, is a conglomeration of all these things coming together, and then actually you can become an archaeologist. So there are a lot many branches, and day by day the branches are developing, and they are also increasing in number. So maybe in the next year you will have some more branches coming up. So that's all.
What are the job opportunities in this field as well as self-employment? What is the scope for self-employment?
Yeah, that's a very important question. Now, job opportunities are there in the Archaeological Survey of India, which is run by the central government. There are also opportunities at the departments of archaeology at the states, there is just like us, there is Archaeological Survey of India, there is a state archaeology department in every state. So there are opportunities in that. Now these opportunities are of two, three kinds. Now you can become an excavation specialist, or you can become a protector of monuments, okay, or protector of art material, so to say. There is another branch which is called museology, and which is involved in, which is included in archaeology, through which you can have jobs at various museums.
Okay.
So that is a second opportunity. Then I told you about the various universities in this country as well as abroad, and there are professors and other lecturers, etc., who are taken from the students of archaeology, of course. Then there are people like me who are actually not related with the field of archaeology exactly, but through their knowledge of archaeology they can have jobs at various museums and collections and repositories, like I am working at the Bhandarkar Institute. Now as regards self-employment, there are two, three avenues. One is that there are, during the last 2 or 3 decades, there have been several fellowships that have been introduced by various international organizations as well as the organizations of this country. And you can submit to them a research project, and if it is sanctioned, you work on that, and you can definitely live well with that. That is one thing. Secondly, nowadays tourism is also a very important industry, and you will find that at various tourist places, the guides actually, they are not trained, and they then inform to the travelers whatever they like, or whatever the travelers would like, I would say. Yeah. And most of the times that information is not accurate, and sometimes it is positively wrong.
Okay.
So there is a great scope to there is a great scope in the industry of tourism. So there are people in the society who want a historically proven scientific information, and you can work for them. So you can take people around, you can show them the scientific nature of various sites. Like for instance, if you take people at Ellora, Verod, then the 16th cave at Ellora, that is Kailas, is the largest man-made cave of the world. And there are hardly any guides who show the Kailas cave in a scientific manner. So there is a scope there. So that is possible. There are several scopes that you have to find, and it is not as easy as maybe in other fields is. Yeah, of course. Now, if you define scope in the terms of money, there are some limitations, of course. But those limitations can definitely be compensated by the pleasure you get in working in this field. So that's the whole story.
Dr. Bakpat, thank you for coming here and
thank
imparting your precious knowledge to our students. Thank you once again.
Thank you.